Yeah, it was good. It was good. Shalom, shalom. Yeah, I know y'all see the title, UFOs in the Bible, and what does that, and what do the Space Force have to do with it, right? So yeah, I know in time past, people that speak on these things will be considered crazy, out of their mind, right? But since the recent times, the government finally came out, admitted, that they have been encountering certain type of extraterrestrial craft or stuff they can't explain. So, and I just want to just touch on that for a minute because a lot of people don't understand those things that we're seeing because we so caught up into what Hollywood have told us what these things are, right? And so yeah, I just want to go into what the Bible say those things is, right? Because I know some people might say, well, I heard people say they're fallen angels, they're demons, they're they're little green men from other dimensions or other planets. So there's a lot of speculation and stuff that people have said about this subject. And like I said, and I know some might not be still convinced, even though the white man have told us that they have seen stuff like that, they've been encountering stuff like that. So you know, so yeah, at the risk of sounding crazy to some, you know, in case some people don't don't already think I'm crazy, but we're gonna get it right into it. See what the Bible says about it, right? So just hold on one second. Fix my camera. Straighten it. Yeah. So yeah, we're just gonna get right into it, right? And we're just gonna go to like probably like one of the first, you know, mentions of something that we might deem as a UFO, right? Then we're just gonna go through the scriptures, right? So let's go to Exodus 13, right? And before we get started, of course, all praises to the Most High. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So let's go to Exodus 13 real quick. Exodus 13 and 21, right? So we're gonna see the first mention of what we would call extraterrestrials or UFOs. So now this is the account of Moses and the Israelites, our ancestors, leaving out of Egypt, right? So now let's see what it says. Let's start at this is Exodus 13. Let's start at 21. Well, let's start at 20, right, to get the context. It says, and they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham and even the edge of the wilderness, right? So now this is when we left out of Egypt, we camped out. Then it says, and Yahweh and the Lord went before them by day a pillar of a cloud, right? So let's think about that for a minute. So it says, because when you're familiar with the story, it said that we were led out of Egypt with a cloud at night during the day, then fire at night, right? So now it's saying that we're led. The Lord went before us like a pillar of a cloud. So it's not necessarily like a linear pillar like that you might see holding up a building, but a pillar also means something solid, right? Like when somebody says this person is the pillar of our community, meaning he's solid. We can stand on him, right? We can we can count on him, right? So so it's saying that and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud, right? So we all familiar with the movie Independence Day, right? The one with the good one with with Will Smith. Uh, in the beginning, how they was moving in that cloud, then it was like fire surrounding it, but it had that cloud covering it, and it just looked like a big storm coming, but inside it was a cloud, right? So it says, but inside it was a one of those little what they call spaceships, right? So so it says, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud and led them away, uh, and led them the way, and by night a pillar of fire. So now this thing is lit up at night, right? Like like the brightness of fire, because you gotta understand they didn't have electricity back then. So what they can liken it to when they seen all those lights and the illumination of it was fire, right? So then it says, at night a pillar of fire to give them light to go by, uh, day and night. And he took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night. Right? So meaning he was always there to guide them. They can look up in the sky and follow this cloud into the direction of the promised land that they were going. And it tells you that um, whenever the cloud rests, meaning whenever it stopped, then that's when they would stop. Then whenever it started to go, then that's when they knew that it was time for them to move, right? So let's go to Exodus 23, right? Chapter 23 and 20, right? Exodus 23 and 20. So now we're gonna get a little more context on this cloud. And then it says, behold, I send a angel before thee to keep thee in the day, keep thee in the way, and to bring thee unto the place which I have prepared. So now this cloud that the Israelites is following, this craft, for lack of better terms, was being guided by an angel. And then, you know, we will say that that angel was who we will call Yahweh, or how the world calls Jesus. Even the Christian church, got that part right. They'll say that this is Jesus leading the Israelites to the wilderness, right, in the form of that cloud, which would be how we will understand it today as some type of spacecraft, some type of aerial vehicle, right? So it says, behold, I will send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and bring thee unto the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. So, like we said, you see this angel has the authority to forgive the Israelites when they messed up, or not forgive the Israelites. So Yahweh, God is saying that this angel is going to be deal with you strict, because he's going to keep you in line. So don't do anything that's going to make him have to jack you up, right? And if you follow the story, of course, we did a lot of things in the wilderness to make him jack us up. But then it says, verse 22, it says, but if thou shalt not indeed obey his voice, and do all that I spake, then I will be an enemy unto thy enemies. But if thou do indeed obey his voice, and do all that I spake, speak, then I will be an enemy to thy enemies, and an adversary unto thy adversary. So God said, as long as you paying attention, obeying what I'm telling you, when the time comes, I'm going to be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversary, right? It says, for my angel shall go before thee, and bring thee unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. So these is the people that was living in what we'll call the promised land, Israel. So God's saying, like, when you get to that point in time, I'm going to get rid of these people for you so you can have the land, right? So now we see this angel that we're following in the sky, right? So let's get let's go to Psalms real quick, get a little more context. So we see that the Israelites was following some type of aerial vehicle out of Israel. So now this is Psalms 66 and 33, right? All right, do I want 60? No, six. I'm sorry, 68 and 33. Psalm 68 and 33. And it says, "To him that ride upon the heavens of heavens, which were of old, lo, he do send his voice in a mighty voice. Ascribe ye strength unto God, his excellency over Israel, and his strength is in the clouds." Right? So it's saying that, let's read it one more time. It says, "To him that ride upon the heavens of earth, which were of old, lo, he do send his voice," like we read, he gonna put command that angel to do what, and the angel, and we have to listen to whatever that angel says, which we know is the angel of Yahweh. Then it says, to him that rideth upon the heavens, and the heavens is the sky, right? It says, "The heavens of heavens which were of old, he doeth send his voice, and that a mighty and that a mighty voice. Ascribe ye Strive ye strength unto God, as his excellency is over Israel." Because that's where that cloud was. The cloud was over Israel that was guiding us out of the land of Egypt. It says, "And the strength is in the clouds." And so what that means is, just like how they say it's stripped in numbers, right? So meaning he got his angels just chilling out in these, clouds or whatever. And like I said, so he has a massive army. So that's his strength is in the clouds, meaning just like how, like we just said, like when they say it's strength in numbers, meaning if somebody is about to go to war with somebody, then they're gonna look at the other person's army to see their strength, to see do they match in might, or is that person more stronger or not. So that's what it means by his strength is in the clouds, because that's where his angels reside at, right? So it says, let's get let's jump up to Psalms 104, right? Let's get Psalms 104 and 3, right? Psalms 104 and 3 says, "Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters," right? And it says, "Who maketh the clouds his chariots." So what is chariots? Chariots are uh moving vehicles, right? When we think of chariots, we think of horses and a buggy. So he's saying he make his clouds the chariots. And then when you understand the lingo of the Bible, chariots often means um, what we will call UFOs in the Bible, because the Bible will call the clouds, or they will call them chariots that the angels, you know, uh, go around in, right? So it says, who left the beams of the chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariots, who walk upon the wings of the wind. So how do you walk upon the wings of the wind? You have to be flying to do so. So we see once again these clouds is being interchanged with the word chariot, which is a moving vehicle. So we see, and when you read the Bible, when it's talking about the Lord's chariots, God chariots, it's often, I ain't gonna say often, it is describing an aerial vehicle, something that can fly in the air, right? And we're gonna further prove that, right? But you know how we do here. We don't say stuff and don't prove it. We're gonna prove it with the book. because the book proves itself, right? So it says, "Who make up his angels, spirits, his ministers of flaming fire," right? So, like I said, so his angels is up in those chariots, getting down, moving around. That the government is, these little people is filming and they're moving and they zigzagging and they doing all this types of crazy stuff. They stopping and going, making right angle turns, all this crazy stuff, right? So then let's go to 68. Let's go back. Let's go to 68. Let's go to 68 and let's go to 68 and 17. Let's go back to Psalm 68 and 17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. So we see that the chariots of God, and we see that what the last verse we read in Psalms 104, that the chariots are likened to clouds in the sky. That's why sometimes me, since I look at sometimes if I see like a weird shaped type of cloud that doesn't look like how normal clouds look, because it's like real symmetric. You know what I'm saying? I kind of look at it a little longer. Because I be wondering. I'm like, well, is that one of those, what we would call, for the lack of better terms, one of those UFOs disguising itself as a cloud, right? So, cause like I said, Hollywood stole from us. Hollywood took our book. Like I said, so you got movies like Independence Day where they show you in the beginning, like I said, the real Independence with Will Smith, the good one. When in the beginning, how they coming in like and they looking like a cloud, but then as they got closer in that cloud, they see fire surrounding the ships as well. So, like I said, so that's where Hollywood got all of that from, right? It's getting it from here, right? So let's go to Daniel real quick. Let's go to the prophet Daniel. Let's start at 7 and 13, right? Because we also said that, because we just read that Yahweh is among them, right? What we just read, it says, let's read it again. The chariots of God are 20,000, even 20,000 of angels. The Lord is among them, right? So let's see this. Let's go to Daniel 7 and 13. It says, "And I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven," right? So it says, and came the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days is a title for the Most High, for God, right? So it says, "I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven." Again, we see that terminology again. See, come with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Right. So it's talking about the Son of Man, which we would know as Jesus Christ. And so he's being presented, in front of the Most High God, right? So we see here again the chariots and the clouds are being interchangeable. They're they're being used to mean the same thing. So not to say that when you look up in the sky you see clouds that every cloud is a potential angel in it. But like I said, like me, what I do if I look at and see like a weird shaped cloud, meaning like it's real symmetric, it doesn't look like a clunky, regular cloud. I kind of look at it a little longer, right? And let's get let's go to Isaiah, right? Let's go to Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66 and 15 says, For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind. Again, so now we're seeing the word chariots, and we know chariots are moving vehicles, but we read in the previous verses that these chariots are aerial vehicles, right? So it says, and behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots. So just like we've been using the movie Independence Day with Will Smith, the good one. Um, the example that we used from the beginning of the movie when the spaceships is coming to Earth, they're covered in a big dark cloud that looked like a storm cloud. But then as the when the helicopters got close to it, they seen fire was surrounding it, and it burnt them up. Right. So it says, "Behold, the Lord will come with fire." And with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger and fury and rebuke with with flames of fire, right? So we see that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we even though like I said Hollywood done stole our from our book and they took our book and they made all these sci-fi movies. So when you think about stuff like this, it sounds comical, you know what I'm saying? Then when people talk about it, you might think that something, they're crazy. But of course we see in a recent time, that the news is even speaking on it. The government is having hearings on these things. Then even before they even came out openly and just said it, Donald Trump created something called the Space Force, right? Like, so they're expecting something, right? So they're not going to spend billions and gazillions of dollars for nothing, and we're going to prove that. We're going to further go into it, right? So let's read it again. It says, "Behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and rebuke with flames of fire." Like we see in the movie Independence Day when they was coming through with the cloud and fire and stuff, right? So then let's go to I just jump to 20. Let's jump down to verse 20. Then it says, "And he shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations." Right now, this is important because I know, like, you might hear me talk about World War III and America getting destroyed with nuclear bombs and all that stuff, right? So then a lot of y'all might say, well, we're here in America. So what did that mean for us? Let's read it again. It says, "And they shall bring all your brethren for a offering uh, unto the Lord out of all nations." So when all hell is breaking loose, when these bombs is going off, these UFOs, for the lack of better terms, but I'm saying it because that's how people understand it. But these angels in these aerial vehicles is going to be scooping us up, taking us out of this place to safety, right? And it says, and they shall bring all your brethren for a offering, and all our brethren is our people, right? The Israelites. It doesn't say everybody because the word brethren means you have a relation with those people, right? So this is how we know that salvation is not for everybody, right? It says, "And the Lord shall bring all your brethren for a offering unto the Lord out of all nations, upon horses and chariots, and the letters upon the mules and upon swift beasts." So this is metaphorically speaking about these aerial vehicles that people are seeing in the sky, right? Then it says, "To my holy mountain Jerusalem," said the Lord, "as the children of Israel bring a offering in a clean vessel unto the house of the Lord." So this is what. So like I said, He's going to gather us these using His angels, and they're gonna. That's why they say, like, man, you see some people report ships being like, a mile long, or you can fit a lot of people. You can fit a lot of people in something that is a mile long, right? Something big as a football field, right? You can fit a lot of people in something like that. So we got to understand these things. So, like I said, it's not some type of crazy bugged out stuff because it's in the scriptures, and not only is it in the scriptures, the government is now admitting to the facts, right? But it's just that we understand exactly what they is, and they do too. That's why they came up with this space force, because these people really think that they can box with God. They really think that they have a chance to fight with God. That's why they try to create their own version of of these gravity defying spaceships. So could they think when the day come when Jesus comes with the thousands, with the millions, they'll say it like the Rock, with the millions and millions of angels, they think they actually have a chance to fight against them, and we're gonna get into that too. So let's go to Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah 4:13. So Jeremiah 4:13 says, "Behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariots shall be as whirlwinds." Again, so we're seeing this same theme and how the clouds and chariots is being likened to a aerial vehicle, and it's saying how the Lord is coming back to this place, right? It says, "Behold, he shall um, come as clouds, and his chariots shall be as a whirlwind. His horses shall stiffer than the than the eagle. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled." Right. So, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be destruction. Because it says woe unto us, meaning because the word woe means destruction. You know, and so that's what's going to happen when they come back. They're going to be judging this place, destroying this place as they taking us up out of here. Right. So let's get Zechariah to further prove all that. Let me just look at this real quick before we go to Zechariah. Okay, well, we'll see what's up with that. But let's go to Zechariah, right? So let's go to Zechariah. We're going to start at 1, just read down to 6, right? Hold on 1 second. So I'm just. Matter of fact, let's get. Let's get a. Well, we're going to just jump to 18, right? Zechariah 1:18. Then it says, "Then lift up of my eyes and saw, behold, four horns. And I said unto the angel," hold on, wait a minute. I thought you start at 1. Hold on. Let me just read this one more time and make sure it's the one I want. Hey, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's go. Matter of fact, we'll we'll come back. Let's go to Ezekiel. Matter of fact, right? Then we can come back to it because I don't want to jump the gun. So I don't want to jump the gun. Let's go to Ezekiel first. Then we're gonna go back there. So because we want to get a little context and see how this, so we can put it all together. So we start at Ezekiel 1:13, right? So Ezekiel 1:13 says, "As for the likeness of the living creatures," so it's talking about the angels, right? It says, "As the likeness for the living creatures, appearance were like burning coal." So what color is charcoal? Because coal is basically charcoal, right? They are charcoal. So charcoal is black. So Ezekiel is seeing black angels that are illuminated. So when it said like burning coal, meaning that they're black and they're shining, right? They're bright. It says for because remember they didn't have electricity back then, so so they would see like unnatural light to them, and they would just liken it to like fire or something, right? So it says, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coal or fire, and like the appearance of lamps, it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. So, like I said, so they just glowing all over, you know what I'm saying? And it says the living creature ran uh the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of flash and lightning. So meaning they just zigzagging through the sky, like how when you see those videos and they just phew 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 going this way, or how that one video, that Navy video where they you know trying to track that one thing and they talking about how fast it's going, and it was hard for them to get a lock on it at first. So these things are just traveling faster than any aerial vehicle that we have here. So it says, and now I behold the living creatures beheld one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with the four faces. The appearance of the wheels and were work as work their their work was like unto a color of a beryl, and and the four had the likeness of their appearance, and their work was it were as the wheel of a middle of a wheel. So now they're describing how the spacecrafts look. It's the wheel like going this way, then it's the wheel in the middle spinning this way, right? So it says the appearance of the wheel and their work was like unto the color of beryl. Beryl is like a green color, right? So it says, and the four had one likeness, meaning like they all look the same, right? The ships all look the same. You know, they was all the same design, right? And it says the four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as if were a wheel in the middle of a wheel, right? So they have a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Like we just explained, it's like one wheel going spinning this way, and in the middle of that wheel is a wheel spinning this way, right? Making a right angle, right? Then it says, they went upon their four. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. Meaning they didn't have to turn their whole, you know, self to turn around like like this, flying this way. They had to turn and that way, like how airplanes do. They have to turn, or helicopters. They have to turn. This thing, they didn't have to turn. Whatever way they wanted to go, they just go that way. Like we see in the videos. When we see videos like that, we don't see them, banking all the way around the turn. They just, if they want to turn right, they just go right. They go left, or whatever way they want to go, right? So it says, and as for their, so they went, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. And as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful. And for the rings were full of eyes upon round about them, round about the four. So he's saying that he's seeing eyes, but these are lights that he's seeing. He's seeing lights all over this thing, right? So it says, and when the living creature went, the whales went by them. And when the living creature uh, were lifted upon the earth, the whales were lifted up. So just like we saw the movie Wakanda, when they got in their little ships, how they can control their ships just by thinking. So this is how these beings, they move these ships with their mind. They don't. It's not no controls in there where they can do things. And if you don't, then like I said, it's stories. When you do research on this topic, not this topic per se, but just the whole UFO topic, you can see videos of people that claim to work on these ships, and they say that there's no controls in there. It's like they move it telepathically, right? They speak on stuff like that. But here, Ezekiel, like about good 3,000 years ago, is speaking on this same thing, that the government is now coming out telling us how these things operate or how they move. Right? Ezekiel is telling you that they move with mind control. There's no controls in them. Right? And whatsoever the spirit was to go, hither. They went hither, and their spirit goes, and the spirit goes, and the will were lifted up over against them, and the spirit of the living creature was in the will. So, like I said, their spirit was in them, meaning they controlled it, right? So let's read it again though in the GNT real quick. Let's get it in the GNT. Let's see how it reads, so we can get a clear understanding. Because sometimes the old English be a little rough, right? So let's see how it reads, right? It says, "Among the creatures there was something that looked like a blazing torch, consistently moving." Meaning the lights was just flashing all over this thing, right? Just moving all about, right? Um, the fire would blaze up and shoot out flashes of light. And we've seen videos like that too, where there'd be like something that's stationary in the sky and this flashing light, like it's taking pictures or something, right? So then it says, um, flashing lightning, and and the creatures then and the creatures themselves darted back and forth with the speed of lightning. So Ezekiel said these things was moving super fast through the sky, just moving, jumping here, jumping there, moving there, jumping there. Even like that little Tic Tac video that the army put out when it was chasing that one thing. They said that they caught it on the radar, but then when they tried to swoop down on it, the thing jumped 60 miles away from them. Just in an instant, it was, able to move 60 miles away. So Ezekiel's telling you how they just jump in. It says they move back and forth with the speed of lightning. I was looking at the four creatures. I saw four wheels touching the ground, one side, one side each of them, and all the four wheels were like each one shone like a precious stone, meaning they had a shine to them. It's a metallic material that he's looking at, right? So we know that this is something that he's looking. That's something that he's physically seeing, has a metallic appearance. It's shining, right? Then, like a precious stone, and each had another wheel intersecting at at the right angle. So, like we just explained, it was some wheels made in the position of a right angle, meaning the ships was looking like one wheel spinning horizontal, and the wheel that's inside of it spinning vertical, right? So making a right angle, right? So then, to get a better picture, let me think. Like think of the how the Grammy Awards look. How it's like the little circle. It's a circle. It's a ball, but the lines they're crossing each other, right, to make a ball or something like that. But instead of all those different intersecting lines, it's just two circles. It's one in the middle and one on the outside, forming a right angle, right? If you need a better picture. So it says the rims of the wheels were covered with eyes, again, talking about the lights on it. Whenever the creature moved, the wheels moved with them. So, like I said, they're using their mind to move these vehicles. Um, and if the creature rose up from the earth, so did the wheels. The creature uh, went wherever they wished, and the wheels did exactly what the creatures did. So like I said, they're moving with they're controlling these ships with their mind because the creatures controlled them. So every time the creatures moved or stopped or rose in the air, the wheels did exactly the same. So whatever the creatures wanted it to do, that's what how they was able to control these vehicles. Like I was saying earlier, when you dig into this, you can see people that's you know that seen these type of vehicles, and they speak on how these vehicles are controlled telepathically. And like we used the example um, of the Wakanda movie, how they was able to control the ships telepathically, right? So then above the head of the creatures were something that looked like a dome. So what when you look at aircraft like jets in the army, the jets have that glass dome that covers them, right, when they're flying. So this is what he's seeing. He's seeing something that's over the top where they're seated at. So it has a what it says. It says above the heads of the creatures were something that looked like a dome made of dazzling crystal, because they didn't have glass like that back then. So he's liking it as dazzling crystal. He's seeing this, you know, glass covering over the top of these ships where they're sitting down at. Just like how when you look at a fighter jet, you can see the pilot sitting in the cockpit over through the windows that's going over their head, right? So that's what he's seeing. Uh, There, there under the dome stood the creatures, because they're seated there. Stood the creatures, and each stretching out two wings towards one towards the next one. Next to it is covering its body, and with the other two wings, I heard a noise of their wing, made in flight. It sounded like a roar of the sea, like the noise of a huge army, like the voice of the Almighty God. When they stopped flying, they stood, they folded their wings, but there was still a sound coming from above the dome of their heads. So just like how an engine be running, a car be sitting and running, you might still hear it. It might be quiet. It might be, but you still hear that humming sound. So even when the ship stopped and the wings folded in on itself, like how we've seen stuff like that. We've seen like spacecrafts, like or like fighter jets. Their wings go back into place, and then when they're ready to fly, the wings come out and they fly. So this is what Ezekiel is seeing, right? This is like 3,000 years ago. He's telling us this. It's just that, of course, Pastor, and I'm not going to read these things. So if we knew all of this, we know what's going on. We know that these are the angels of God, not fallen angels, because a lot of people get caught up in this whole fallen angel stuff. Like, and we already did a lesson on proving that there's no such thing as fallen angels, that every last angel does exactly what God wants them to do without question. They're not just doing stuff on their own. Anything they do is okayed and signed off by the Most High God, right? And we proved that already. So it says, above the dome there was something that looked like a throne made of sapphire, and sitting on the throne was a figure that looked like a human being. So now he's seeing God sitting on his throne, right? And he said it looked like a figure. A figure looked like a human being, right? So now with these angels, these four, because number one, you got to get the picture. They're flying in formation, right? They're flying in formation, and then what they're doing, they're technically, for the lack of better terms, they are they are towing the throne of God. They're bringing the throne of God to earth. So, and on that throne is the Most High God. And Ezekiel says, a figure that looked like a human being, a figure seemed to be shining like bronze. What color is bronze? Brown. So this is a brown skinned man. This is a God that looked just like us, right? And we can prove that in the book of Daniel 7 and 9. That God looked just like us. His hair is just like mine right now. It tells you that he had hair of the purest wool. And that's how black people hair is. Our hair is like wool, right? Especially if it's real thick. You know what I'm saying? You got that old country ass hair, that Mississippi hair. You know, I know Lil Wayne says tough like Nigerian hair, but I'm talking about Mississippi hair. You know, it's thick. So it says, where am I at? Boom, boom, boom. Says, like bronze in the middle of the of fire. So meaning he's illuminated, he's shining. So so not only is he brown, just like how we read about how the angels were, were looking like coal, but they was illuminated, they were shining. So now this brown skinned man, this dark skinned man is shining. He's illuminated. It says, boom, boom, boom. A bronze in the middle of fire. The throne. It's showing all the colors of the rainbow. So we know it's God because he's so bright. He's illuminating all these different colors of the spectrum, looking like a rainbow. That was the dazzling light, which shows the presence of Yahweh. See there now, that's who it is, Yahweh. So we see that we understand that. So now we're understanding when we see these things, what we're actually looking at. We're not looking at some type of uh, um, some type of civilization from another planet that's trying to get in touch with us. We're actually looking at the angels of God, the army of God, to be Pacific, right? So let's go. So now let's go to. Let's go where I want to go with this. Let's go to. Now let's go back to Zechariah, right? Let's go back to Zechariah. No matter of fact, let's go to Habakkuk. Let's go to Habakkuk first. Then we can go to Zechariah. Let's start at 13. Habakkuk 3 and 13. It says, uh, there went forth the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thy anointed. Thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation on the neck. Shia. Thou didst strike through uh, with his gaze. The head of his village came out as a whirlwind, scattered me. Rejoicing was to devour the poor in secretly. So that's what these people want to do. They want to devour us in secret. That's why they try to pretend like they're trying to actually do something to help us. But as we can see, especially after the whole so-called civil rights movement, they're still doing other little things to disrupt, us actually getting what they call equality. So they want to devour us in secret, but they tell the world that this is a just place that we don't, and they want to go police the world, but here they're still secretly oppressing us, right? So y'all see this, right? So it says, thou did walk through the sea with thy horses through the heap of the great waters. I heard my belly tremble by lips, my lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness enter my bones. I trembled in myself. I might rest. I trembled in myself that I might rest in the day of trouble. When he come unto his people, he will invade them with his troops. So who's this? Who is God's troops? Those angels that we're reading about in these aerial vehicles that we've been reading about in Ezekiel, that we read about in Exodus, in the book of Psalms. That is his troops. Those are his army. That is his army. That's why they call him the Lord of Hosts. When you read the Bible and it says the Lord of hosts, meaning the host is the army. That's what it means. It's another way of saying army, right? So just get now just get Zechariah. Let's get uh let's start at chapter 5. And it says, and we're gonna read this in the GNT too, but we're gonna read it here first. And it says, then I returned and lift up my eyes and look, and behold, a flying roll. Now, what is a flying roll? Look at a shape of a dinner roll. You know, it's flat, then it got a kind of round, right? So he's seeing something that looked like a roll, right? A flying roll, not just a roll that you can eat. A flying roll. It says, and he said to me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits. Now he's giving a description of how big this thing is, right? And it says the length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. And he said unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. Why is it a curse? We're gonna get to it to see why it's a curse. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on the side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off on the side according to it. Right. So just get it in the GNT, because like I said, sometimes the old English, even though I do read the KJV, but sometimes the old English don't really give it justice. So just read it like how we somewhat talk today, right? Just get it in the GNT. Boom, 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 right here. So now this is same book, Zechariah 5 and 5. Start at 5. We're gonna start at 1, right? Uh, I look again, and this time I saw a scroll flying through the air, right? So now it's being described as a scroll, and we hear them talk about like a cylindrical flying vehicle that's look like a cigar, right? So I know, like in the King James, they described it as like a dinner roll, right? But now we see that it's being described as a cylindrical object. That's how they might say like a cigar shape, right? And so we see these things like when you look into the subject and you see people or the videos and they show you like something that looked like a cigar shape flying in the sky. So it says, I looked again and I saw a scroll flying through the air. And a scroll is a scroll is made. A scroll is long. Have two sides to it. You have the paper in the middle. You can open it up like that, right? So it says, flying through the air, the angel asked me what I saw, and I answered, a scroll flying through the air. It is 30 feet long and 15 feet wide. So it's giving you the dimensions of this thing. It's saying it's 30 feet long and 15 feet wide. Then he said to me, on it is written, the curse that is out, the curse that go out over the whole world, over the whole land. So think about it. So now, because people, I remember I was watching this UFO thingy on the History Channel or something, and this guy said when he got close to this ship that landed in the forest, he seen like strange writing written on it. He couldn't understand the writing. But here, what it Zechariah says is written on it. It says, on one side of the scroll, it says, every thief will be removed from the land. So who is the thief? Who kidnaps people? Who goes around the whole world robbing and stealing? Right? Who is the thief? Who is the biggest thief? Not only do they will steal a piece of candy, they'll take a whole country. They'll take a whole people. They steal elections, right? What did Brett Favre do? Brett Favre stole millions and millions of dollars in public aid assistance, right? Then they want to call black people that's accepting public aid lazy. But this man took, was it $5 million worth of public aid assistance, right? So who is the thief, right? And it says on one side of this road, it says every thief will be removed from the land, and on the other side, it says everyone that lies under oath will be taken away. So who's the biggest liars? Who people? What people propagate the biggest lies? Right? What did Nicki Minaj say when she used to live in Trinidad? That she used to think that America uh, had like everybody had big houses and the streets was made out of gold. That's what she thought as a girl growing up in Trinidad before she came out here. So America propagate this lie around the world to the point where everybody wants to come to America. And when they get to America, they find themselves working for the rest of their life, for the most part, 99% of the time, right? So it says, one side says, every thief will be removed from the land. And the other side says, everyone who tells a lie under oath shall be taken away. So, like I said, so bring me back to that documentary or video I saw a while back when this guy said he had seen like one of these ships land on the ground and he seen writings on the side of it, but he couldn't read it. But like we said, Zachariah is looking at one of these ships and he can see the writing and it says that the thief should be cut off and the liar. And we know who those people that is the biggest thieves and the biggest liars, right? We know who they are. Then it says, then it says, will be moved from the land, and the other side says, everyone who tells a lie under oath will be taken away. The Almighty, the Lord Almighty says that He will send this curse out and will enter the house of every thief and the house of everyone who tells a lie under oath. It will remain in their houses and leave them in ruins. Because that's what's going to happen. A lot of people, they try to propagate, because some people, like the movie Back to Independence Day. When it was all on the roof, they had the little welcome signs to the aliens and stuff. Then what happened? A big ass bright beam came down and destroyed everything right there, right? So that's what's gonna happen. It says the Lord Almighty will send this curse out and will enter the house of every thief and the house of everyone who tells lies, and it will remain in their houses and leave them in ruins. Right? That's what's gonna happen. And let's get in case we don't know. Hold on. Is everybody? Let's get before we go to let's go to Psalms real quick. Psalms 49 and 11. Psalms 49:11 says, "The inward thoughts in their houses, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, in their dwelling place to all generations. They call their lands after their own name." So, who was America named after? America Vespucci, Italian map maker. Who took on the name of Africa? African Leo Skimpicanus, a Roman general. All these countries that they take and they name uh, it after their names, right? Because they think they can be able to steal all this wealth from everybody and pass it down to their generation and generation. But we just read in Zechariah that the Lord is going to cut off the thief, right? And we know that these people stole this land and stole Australia, they stole South Africa, they stole Europe, they stole anywhere you see they face at and they call it home, they stole it. They're not originally from none of those places that they live in at now. So it says their inward thoughts is that their houses should continue forever and their dwelling place to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. So that's what they do. They come and conquer stuff, then they name it after like their wife or their daughter or some grandkids or their self, you know, and that's what they do. And so we see that they have these. thoughts that that's why nobody think America is going to be taken down. Like America is just out of all the civilizations in the world that came and went, America's the only one that's going to stay here forever. Because it says the inward thoughts is that their houses should continue forever. And that's the thought of these people. That nothing's going to happen to them. Everything is straight. You know what I'm saying? Everything is all good. You know what I'm saying? That's the pride of these people. Right? Let's get now just get second address in 15 because we're going to understand this whole thing, right? So second address in 15. So now this is because we speaking, we now we kind of getting more into the space force, right? So when you read about second address 13, it's an end time prophecy. This is when the final battle happened, what they call Armageddon. So, and we know that World War III is going to happen. But then, as World War III is happening, when Yahweh Shah and his angels come crack the sky open, because we read who those angels is and what these aerial vehicles are, when they come, then the world is going to stop fighting each other. Then they'll be like, hey, let's go fight them niggas. Right? What is this? You know what I'm saying? So we need to stop fighting each other and come together and fight them. Right? That's why what Ronald Reagan said in the 80s, that one thing that can bring the whole world together if an outside extraterrestrial force comes to invade, that would bring us together. So they knew what was going on. They've been planning on this, right? So that's why they built the Space Force, right? So it says, now this is second Ezra 13 and 15. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was a gathering together, uh, a multitude of the men of men out of number, meaning all the armies of the world, right? It says, from the four winds of the heavens to subdue the man that came out of the sea. And out of that sea, meaning he came out of the sea of people. And who's the sea of people? Us. Because we was gathered together in the wilderness. Because like we read in Isaiah 66, that he's going to gather us and, and bring us over to that land, right? And he's going to gather us by using what we call these aerial vehicles, the chariots, right? So now we're gathered. So now this is in the distant future, not too distant because World War III is right around the corner. So it says, after this I behold, and lo, there was a gathering together a multitude of men out a number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the men that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew upon it. And that great mountain is us. Because you got to understand, we say this, we go through this, that the terminologies of the Bible. Sometimes when the Bible is talking about people or nations, it might describe us as mountains or hills, right? So it says, and flew upon it, meaning he came to protect us. Because he's seen the whole armies of the world jaying down on us. So then he's like, all right, let me go stand in, get in protection. Then it says, but would have himself a great, let me see, boom, 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 yeah, and flew upon the mountain, but would have seen the region or place where out of the hills was graven, and I could not. So meaning we ran away. So, once we seen the armies coming, we ran away, and Yahweh Shah just standing there bold, like, all right, I got this. Y'all get up out of here. It's about to be some things that it's gonna be hard for y'all to smile, right? On some Tupac shit. So it says, so was not. And after this I behold, and lo, they that which were together to subdue him, because this is the pride of these people. They think they can actually fight against Jesus, right? So it says they came to subdue him and were sore afraid. They was afraid though. They coming with their tanks. They coming with their fighter jets. They coming with everything they got, but they scared shitless because this is a supernatural being that they calling themselves fighting. Not only is he a supernatural being, he's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the Son of God, Yahweh Shah. That's who he is. And these people trying to fight him. Madness. It's crazy. This is what we got to deal with. So it says, and they were so afraid, yet does fight. But they're gonna still fight because they're so prideful. They're still gonna fight. They're shitting in their pants, but it says, sore afraid and yet does fight. And lo, he saw the violence of them, of the multitude that came And he neither lifted up his hand, nor held a sword, nor any instrument of war, but only he saw that he sent out of his mouth as he had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flame of breath, and out of his tongue came out sparks and tempests. So meaning, we're not gonna pull the precept, but we're just gonna just break it down. So meaning he's gonna give a command to his people, and the people is what we would call the 144,000. That's the army that he's gonna use to destroy. Because when you read when we get to Isaiah 63, he did so much destruction on this earth that he don't want to get his hands dirty no more. He gonna let us get our lick back, right? Hopefully we're part of that number. So now the multitude is also us that went and hid somewhere while they about to go get it on. But like I said, when you read Isaiah 63, you see the damage he done. So he's like chilling now. So now that sparks and fire that comes out of his mouth is actually him giving that commandment, and we are that sparks and fire. And you read about that in the book of Obadiah, uh, 1 and 18, then also in Jeremiah 51 and 20. So, like I said, I'm just paraphrasing because, for the sake of time. So, then it says, the violence of the multitude that came neither. Okay, he lifted up his hands, nor held a sword or any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath. Out of his tongue cast sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together. The blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and all fell with violence upon the multitude. So he's going to unleash us. And like I said, we are that fire. When you the army of Israel, the 144,000, they're going to be like Superman mixed with Mike Tyson in that day, right? They're gonna have. That's where, like I said, Hollywood stole from us. Hollywood, when you watch these sci-fi movies, a lot of that stuff, concepts come from the Bible. They just remix it a little bit. So now we're talking about some X-Men stuff right now. That's what type of power we're gonna have. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully we, part of that number. So, they come in with all their little modern warfare stuff. All we got is our bare hands and the Spirit of God, right? So it says, the blast of fire, boom, 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 and the violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one that was upon a sudden innumerable multitude, nothing was perceived. So all the armies of the world is coming to fight this man. And when he released us on them, we're going to destroy them so much. The prophet Ezra is saying, like, it was once millions and millions of people coming to fight, but then once he released us, he couldn't even make those people out anymore. They're just like they just vanished, like we did a magic trick on their ass. So it says, the violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, uh, a innumerable multitude, nothing was perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid. So Ezra is saying when he see this, Ezra is seeing this vision, even though Ezra is on the right side of things. But him watching this, it's terrifying for him to see it, even though this is working in his benefit because he is an Israelite. So he said, when I saw this, I was afraid. Afterwards, I saw the same man come down from the mountain and called unto him another peaceable multitude. So now he's telling us, all right, everything is cool now. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? We took care of that, right? So that's what we mean by this whole. So they building their space force. They're putting all their little monies together to build all this technology. They're putting all their little laser technology and missile capability, out here in these satellites. So they're thinking that they can actually box with this man, but they're not going to be able to do anything with him, right? So, and this is why, people don't understand what's going on, right? Now, this is the last verse. We're going to close out on this one. This is the wisdom of Solomon, right? Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 3. So Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 3 says, I'm sorry, 5 and 2 says, when they see it, they shall be troubled and terrible fear. Why they gonna be troubled and terrible fear? Because they gonna see these so-called spaceships, UFOs coming, and they're gonna be taking us up out of here. And first they're gonna be scared because they see them. The people are gonna see them. Then it says, and they shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. So when we get salvation and save up out of here, they're gonna be amazed because they're like, God damn, these niggas and Mexicans and they what? They are God's people. They're the ones that are getting saved. We got to stay here and dodge missile fire. God damn. They're going to be amazed at the strangeness of the salvation. And it's strange because nobody knew that it was going to happen this way. When they propagating this whole UFO stuff, and they, some of them try to make it seem like these are friendly entities that's coming to check on us. These are the long lost Anunnaki, some crazy shit that people be saying. But so it's gonna be strange to them when they see what's really going on. They can be like, "Oh my God, wow!" You know how when people be shocked at stuff, right? So they should see the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond, so far beyond that they that look for. So meaning they wasn't expecting this to be that. They always thought we niggas, we're gangbangers, we're thugs, we're drug addicts, we're prostitutes, we're criminals. They never thought that we would be the ones that getting saved out of this. Because they thought that they were just so holier and thou that they are, that God blessed them so much because God bless America, no place else. So when they see that who's God really coming back for, it says the strangeness of their salvation so far beyond what they were looking for. They repent. They repenting and groaning. So repenting meaning that they was feeling sorry. They were and they was groaning because they was in anguish. Like God damn, just like if uh you bet a whole bunch of money on something and then it doesn't work out, you're gonna be in anguish. You're gonna be like, damn, why I do that stupid stuff? Why I spend all that money right there just to lose it? You're gonna be upset. So this is how they're gonna feel because they're gonna think because they go to these churches on Sunday, you know, they speak in tongue, they do all this crazy shit, and they're gonna think that they're gonna be the one that's getting saved. They're gonna think because you know they've been able to accumulate a certain amount of wealth, so that means God is blessing them. You know, so then when they see a bunch of people that look like us actually getting salvation, it's going to be strange to them, and they're going to be upset and groaning and moaning at the fact of seeing us actually getting saved and them have to dodge Russia missile fire. So it says, in anguish in spirit, meaning they're going to be vexed. Their spirit is going to be hurt. They're going to be crushed. Just like, for example, when we all had that feeling of being crushed before. Something that you really wanted or something that you like, but then it just let you down and you're crushed. That's how they're going to be. They're going to be crushed in that day. The spirit is going to be just crushed. Then it says, shall say with them, say in derision and prove off the reproach. We are fools, accounted his life we are fools. That's what they're gonna say, man. We was dumb, man, for treating those niggas like that. We was dumb for treating black people like that. We were so dumb for treating the Hispanic and Native American people like that. We were fools. Accounted his life as madness. We thought these niggas was crazy. We thought these niggas was thugs, gang bangers, worthless. Only thing they were good for was entertainment. We were fools. Accounted his life madness. Uh, and its end to be without honor because they don't care if a nigga die. You know, they always gonna try to figure out is somehow, some way, it's our fault that it happened. So when we get shot unarmed by the police, I'm like, well, he must have did something, right? So they're gonna say we were fools. I counted his life as madness, meaning like it's why are these niggas here? Like, why don't they do something for themselves? Like, why do they act like that? You know, and it's end to be without honor, meaning they don't shed a tear when we they don't shed a tear when we die. You know what I'm saying? Just another nigga gone to them. But in that day, they gonna realize like, God damn, we done messed up. Then God gonna be looking at them like that detective off of Men's Society, like you done fucked up, right? You done fucked up, and that's how they gonna feel, right? So that's why it says when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of His salvation, because they didn't realize that God. This is how God's salvation is coming. You know, so far beyond all they have looked for, meaning they wasn't even thinking about it like that. Because, like I said, Hollywood had destroyed our understanding of when we think about. Because when you think about UFOs, you just think aliens. But we're not thinking what the scripture says. The scriptures tell you exactly who they are. They are the chariots of the Lord, His army, His angels. Not fallen angels, but His army, His angels. Right? And it says, so strange of His salvation, so far beyond that they look for. They have repented and groaning for anguish of spirit. So they say with in derision and in a proof in proverb of reproach, we are fools. His life was madness, and his end and his end to be without honor. So that's how they gonna be thinking like, dang, we were so wrong for treating them like that. Because what did Thomas Jefferson say? Right? Thomas Jefferson said we need to consider the fact that we have God people in captivity. And we need to consider the fact if we got God's people in captivity, I'm paraphrasing, that we got something to worry about. That's what Thomas Jefferson said, right? So you got to understand that they know what's going on. It's just them trying to say things and try to, make us just laugh at the matter, and for us won't really, consider, that's why they make all these movies, where they defeating the aliens, right, with their earthly technology, you know, like, but we see right here, they're not even no match for them, right? So I hope we have a better understanding. So when we see these things, or they talk about these things, or you watch videos, TikTok videos, whatever type of videos you may see this stuff on, you have a better understanding and of what is actually being seen, right? Hold on one second. Okay, yeah, that's a Cuzzle. Behold the thine house. Right, yeah, I went through that. Yeah, Daniel 9 and 10, right? That's the end of the Daniel 7 and 9. I'm kind of half blind, so I have to get a little close with it. But yeah, so yeah, that's what we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Daniel 7 and 9. You know that shows you when the Most High coming back, right, on his throne, right? Just get that just really quick, just because Cuzzo pulled it out. So it says Daniel 7 and 9. I beheld the thrones were cast down, meaning all these different nations was destroyed at this point, right? And it says, and the Ancient of Days did sit, and we know the Ancient of Days is a title for the Most High God, whose garment was white as snow. He had a garment on, right? So he has a body. Uh, and his hair was like the pure wool, like how mine is looking. And his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire, like we read in Ezekiel, first chapter, about those wheels, right? And we read in Ezekiel about how they were carrying the throne of God, right? So we see these things, so we know what's going on here, right? Then it says, yeah, so yeah, that's it on that. But yeah, so we see these things, right? So, like I said, so we know the truth. It's just that we haven't, now that we're being taught the proper way to understand these things, we get it now, right? So, like I said, so nothing to be all spooked out about because that is your army. You know what I'm saying? That is your real life physical army. When you see videos of those things and they, playing with the army, you know, making them chase them and then they zipping off on them. They just toy with them, letting them know you have nothing on us. We can destroy you anytime we want. That is our army, right? We got to get that through our head. There's not no spooky, wookie stuff. Not no little green man or nothing like that. There's other videos you can watch where white people are telling you that they seen black people getting off these ships when they land. Uh, like we read in Ezekiel, describing the angels to be black like coal, black like charcoal, right? So, like I said, so the truth is there. It's just that we have to rightly divide the truth so we can understand what's going on. So, with that, I'm gonna say shalom. Hope that was edifying and saying we have a better understanding of these things. And because, like I said, they're coming back for us to save us, like we read in Ezekiel 68. I mean, it says 68. Ezekiel 66. Uh, where else we read it? Let's see where else we got it. I mean, like, yeah, just in the other parts we read, right? Can't think of the other verse that we quoted. But like I said, so that's what's happening. So, shalom, peace. Next time. Oh, today is the start of the Feast of Tabernacle. This another holiday we have today. It's a week-long holiday. We celebrate for the whole week. We turn up for the whole week. You eat, you drink, you find your peace. It's a day where we go camping. It's a camping holiday. You go outside. You know what I'm saying? Like you able to go outside, find your nice little camp area, and you camp there for the week. 7 days, 7 nights to camp, right? That's how you celebrate the holiday. You eat, you chill, and you just enjoy the outdoors, right? So, but then those of us that don't have camping equipment and all that stuff, you can also make you just a homemade tent on your living room floor or something, right? And just sleep on the floor in your living room in a homemade tent for that week. You can celebrate it like that. Because like I tell you in the book of Judges, we must rehearse the righteous acts, right? So, like I said, so with that, I'm gonna say shalom and peace. Because I'm gonna get myself together to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Peace. Shalom.